swelled up. I don't know what the hell it is.
I cut mine all the time.
Good morning, and welcome to the Todd County Board of Commissioners regular board meeting. The date is Tuesday, August 17th. The time is 9 a.m. All commissioners are present along with the auditor, treasurer, and coordinator. We will stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Madam Chair, I have some items in the consent items, and if you want me to read them during the time, or if I should just list them now?
Why don't you just read them as we
Oh,
go
sure.
through them?
Okay. that'll work.
Okay. Are there any other, or is there any other amendments to the agenda? If not, is there a motion for approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Newman. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Denise will go into the consent items.
Consent items today are meeting minute approval, August 3rd, 2021. Retirement of Corey Hyde, Road Deputy, 7/30/21. Resignation Joshua Kreider, Part-Time Dispatch, 8/1/2021. Hire of Full-Time Correctional Officer Shayla Bacon. This would be a grade 6, step 2, with a starting wage of $21.26. Resignation of Aaron Guthner, Part-Time Road Deputy, 7/16/2021. A hire of a part-time road deputy, Tyler Schwartz, and we have to make notation that the correction to the actual board action should read part-time. It was typed in there by full-time. So it is a part-time road deputy with a grade 10, step 1, a pay of $26.06. Appoint a social worker, Autumn Punsack Nelson, and this is a budgeted item, and it will be self-funded. Appoint registered nurse, Jennifer Panzuka. I hope I didn't murder that name too bad. And that's all we have for today for consent items.
Okay, is there a motion for approval of the consent items?
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Erickson. Discussion?
May I thank Corey Hyde for his long service to the county?
Yes. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
The auditor treasurer items today are commissioner warrants, background assent for your review. Recommendation is to approve the commissioner warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $64,047.53.
Is there a motion for the commissioner warrants?
So moved.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker.
Yes.
The next item I have then is the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants, background assent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling in the amount of $105,981.27.
Is there a motion for the approval of the Health and Human Service Commissioner warrants?
So moved.
Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Erickson. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Kircher,
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kneisel,
Yes.
Commissioner Newman,
Yes.
Commissioner Becker.
Yes.
The last item I have today is the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants. Background is sent for review. Recommendation is to approve the Health and Human Service SSIS warrants with an ACH and a regular manual payment totaling the amount of $56,706.60.
Is there a motion for the Health and Human Services SSIS warrants?
So moved.
Motion by Kenizel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second Newman. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, roll call.
Commissioner Kenizel?
Yes.
Commissioner Newman?
Yes.
Commissioner Erickson?
Yes.
Commissioner Kircher?
Yes.
Commissioner Becker?
Yes. Then we'll invite the library, Great River Regional Library. Good morning.
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 Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Punsack. I'm Executive Director for Great River Regional Library. I have with me today our two newest members of the leadership support team at the library system, and I wanted to introduce them to you partly because, one, you'll be dealing with Amy with accounting, and then Kara Langston is the new Patron Services Supervisor who will be helping the libraries in Todd County and Morrison County. So they're both new to their roles in December, and I thought it might be a good experience for them to hear from you and for you to see their faces. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to either one of them. Amy is taking over for Aaron Murphy. You may have remembered him from previous board meetings. He left the organization in August, and Amy joined us in December. So this is Amy Anderson, our accounting coordinator.
Good morning. Thank you for having us this morning. As you know, Great River Regional Library receives the majority of its operating and capital funding from the 6 counties that it serves. This year, our board adopted its budget on July 20th, and several goals were set by our trustees as part of that process. The first is keeping county shares as flat as possible, and the second is the use of reserves on the overall 2022 budget. To keep contributions flat, shares were calculated using the library's 2021 operating budget and are a reflection of each county's population, registered user numbers, and net tax capacity. As a result, Todd County will contribute $335,372 in 2022, which is an increase of $4,531 over 2021. To incorporate the use of reserves, $315,218 from the library's unassigned fund balance was also incorporated, and a preliminary spend-on plan for this amount was presented and adopted by our board in July. The 2022 operating budget supports the expansion of the library's fines-free initiatives, which we started with juvenile materials in late 2019. Late materials fines are a declining revenue source for us and make up about 1% of our overall budget. Fines are not guaranteed, so planning for a significant reduction to this revenue line creates more accuracy for us as we do our budgeting calculations, which is especially important because our process ends before state-funded contribution amounts are known. The goals of expanding this idea are to reduce the financial barriers that may prevent some patrons from accessing library materials, and to increase the amount of time our staff can spend assisting library users in a more positive way. But just to clarify, patrons are still responsible for replacing items that are not returned. There's not yet a policy in place, but we are excited to share our work with you as it progresses. At this point, our plans are researching how other cities and counties have adopted and implemented their own fine-free policy programs. We wanted to thank you for your continued support of the library and its services, and if you have any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
And on the handout we included in your packet, there's information about what we're seeing with the Fines Free initiative. We appreciate the contributions that Todd County provides to support library services. The example there is the Wi-Fi to-go hotspots. That was something that was partially funded last year through CARES funding through Todd County, and it's been a great experiment. We have 30 different hotspots located in our libraries right now, and we're in the process of evaluating how they were used and making some adjustments and using our state telecommunications aid to expand that project beyond the libraries that currently have them. So that's going to be something that will also be growing in the coming year. So if you have any questions about that, we'd be happy to answer those as well. And then if you have any questions, I know we have some staffing turnover happening at the Great Eagle Library. So Jen Shattuck will be leaving Great River at early September, and Kara's working on that transition right now. So if you have any questions around that, she'd be happy to answer those as well.
If I may, Karen, we've discussed longer hours at some of the libraries, and I know I didn't make the last meeting, so I don't know if you proposed anything or had any discussion about that, but the board's well aware of that the reserves at the county, or at the library are at a level where we've been using them as offsetting some of the budget. But I also suggested that we look at expanding hours at libraries. So could you discuss that a little bit?
Yes, we didn't include specifics in the handout because we haven't exactly figured out how it'll apply at the local level. Kara's been in conversation with some of the local staff on what that might look like, and we are looking at trying to do something in January in the libraries where we can make it happen. And it's not just the dollars that support it, that's the challenge. It's the staff who can work the hours too. So that's where some of the balancing has been coming. Do you want to maybe mention some of the conversations you've had?
Yeah. So, it's really been, we're really just in sort of the planning stage right now, thinking about what's possible, how to make hours more regular across the board, what days libraries are closed. So the libraries that I work with and the library service coordinators, we've been talking about how to do that smartly, thinking about where checkouts per hour might be higher, those sort of things. So we're really in a sort of planning stage, and I'm relying a lot on the LSCs who are the library service coordinators who are on the ground and seeing people come in the door and have a good sense about when their communities need open hours, versus me just thinking about what might look good on paper. So trying to be smart about it.
Good. I appreciate that, and my intent was to, and you maybe haven't heard me say this, Karen, but my intent was for the small libraries to get more hours, not the bigger ones, but the smaller ones. And I know it's more difficult when it comes to staffing and things like that, but it's just the small ones that I think could be open a little longer. And the reason I have a personal reason is my wife always says, well, I have to wait for the library to open up, or I got to wait for this day to roll around before I can do something. So I kind of listen to her once in a while, but not a lot. But anyway, that's just some of the comments. And I've had comments from users and some of the staff members in the local level that have talked to me about this also. So I'm glad you're working on it, and I hope to see the results. So.
And it seems like the smaller libraries might have more potential, like in Elk River, for example. It's one of the places we've almost all but ruled out at this point,
Right.
because the city's already paying for additional open hours, and it would be hard to find a spot where it would make sense.
Okay.
And St. Cloud was already off the
Right.
table because they've got so many.
Thank you.
Thank you for moving it forward.
I guess I'm curious about your Wi-Fi hotspots. You have 30 of them located in Todd County. How were they rented out, by the day, by the week? And the other question would be, is who's using them? Is it students or elderly, or, just on
yeah.
your program?
Sure. So anyone can check them out with a library card. It's a 1-week checkout. We don't allow holds, but I think in some locations they kind of keep a running list if there aren't some available. In some locations, all of them are checked out. So, and then in some locations, there's usually 1 or 2 waiting there if people need them. It has been a wide range. I don't know. Have you heard anything specific about who is using them?
I haven't heard anything specific, no.
Okay. I do know that in some locations, it's been really hard to even keep them in stock. And then there's a few where we had 5 just as the base number, and there's a few still on the shelf. But they're unlimited usage if you check them out. So if you don't have Wi-Fi at home, you can take it, check it out, bring it back. If no one's waiting for it, you can check it out again.
Are there any of the libraries in Todd County that they're checked out all the time? I mean, is this something that we as a county should be looking at a specific library, or something that we should be trying to get more hotspots in that area, or not?
We're just evaluating that now, and
Okay.
all of the Todd County libraries have it. Not all of the libraries in Great River have it. We chose to, when we first started this project, place them in locations that had the highest level of free and reduced lunch and the lowest level of broadband connectivity. So that was definitely Todd County. The other piece we're working on right now, which will also apply to some of the libraries in Todd County, we received funding through the American Rescue Plan Act. The dollars aren't in the door yet, but one of the initiatives that will be moving forward with that in partnership with our cities is putting Wi-Fi signals out in the parking lots. We did work with like Staples to like aim our Wi-Fi out the window so that the signal was stronger during COVID. But now we're looking at putting an actual signal in the parking lot. But we have to be strategic about that because it's a 24/7 signal. So if you have someone parking there at midnight, the city needs to be able to be comfortable with that and know that it may or may not be okay if they've got someone patrolling in the area. So, you know, it's a benefit, but it is something we're cognizant of.
How do you not use password then? You can just drive in and, okay.
Yeah, for the Wi-Fi signals themselves at the library, they're on 24/7. So if you can get close enough to the building at any location, you can probably pick up on it. You don't need a library card for the Wi-Fi signal. It's just for the hot spots if you were going to check them out. And those you'd have to come into the library when it's open.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Very interesting program, and I think it's something that's really needed in the rural areas. Any other questions, board members? Thank you for coming and sharing today.
Yes, thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Good morning, Lauren.
Good morning, everyone. Our first item on the agenda for Public Works this morning is a request for a final payment authorization for a 2021 dust control project. Our options are to approve the attached resolution and do not approve the attached resolution. And our recommendation is to approve the attached resolution, making final payment of $5,705.65 to Knife River Corporation.
Okay, is there a motion for the final payment for the dust control?
So moved.
Motion by Kneisel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Kircher. Discussion?
Yeah, these gravel roads are really taking hit this summer
Oh.
with the dust. I mean, it's just, basically, it's just stones left on the road is all that's left now.
Yeah, it's, excuse me, it's hard for us to go out and blade. We're basically just moving dust around. And every time someone drives by, the fines leave, which is kind of our glue that keeps the dirt together. So yeah, it's been a difficult year. So we pray for rain.
Okay. Lauren, when we're riding around different counties or different areas, we've noticed that some of them have put it in front of houses or spot. Do we do that as a county or do we not?
No, we do a blanket approach of
Okay.
the whole road, and we base it based on traffic volume. So we list all our routes on a list, and those with a higher traffic volume get this treatment. And we use that traffic threshold of 90 cars a day. We could obviously go down to lower volumes, but it would require additional funding. There are a few instances that residents have called us and put stakes up along the road where they apply that dust control themselves, and we won't blade it.
Okay.
The difficulty, though, is we have to feather in and feather out with our motor graders. Not always a great way to operate our system. So if they pay for it, we'll allow it, but we do not keep an ongoing list of every resident along the county road.
Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I have that in front of my house, but really, it's not doing a heck of a lot of good right now during this dry weather. You can see where they've sprayed in the middle where it's really hard and compacted, but the outsides are just wore down to nothing. There's dust and it's starting to.
It's
It's usually, during this time of drought, it's not doing any good at all, hardly, so.
not a great, no, it's, like Commissioner Kneisel said, it's been a very bad year.
Just-
How many years have you been doing it?
The township has been doing that for probably at least, I'm gonna say close to 10 years.
Okay.
And you pay for it, they pay half, that we pay half.
You pay half, yeah.
And they do it, but it's, this year I've noticed it's not doing a heck of a lot of good, so.
A bad year.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
All right, thank you. Our last item on the agenda today is a request to set a date for our fall road meeting. Our options are to set a date or not have the fall road meeting. Our recommendation is to set a date for a fall road meeting. I have a number of dates listed, all at 9 a.m. And this time I did include, as we did last time, the location to be here at the county boardroom. Typically, we have it down at our Public Works facility, but due to its small confinement area still during COVID times, I figured being spaced out would probably be more appropriate to keep it up here at this time. So with that, looking for a date to set.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
does anybody know when the District 4 AMC meeting is?
It's usually at the end of October. ain't it?
October.
I think it's, yeah. Usually a Friday, ain't it?
yes, usually it's a Friday.
So for me, the 27th and 28th look good of October. You start getting into November and it's deer hunting and no.
We understand.
I got a meeting the 27th.
That would be Wednesday. Go Thursday, the 28th.
I'm good.
Thursday, the 28th. Is there a motion for that then?
I'll move that, Madam Chair.
Okay. Motion by Newman to make it Thursday, the 28th at 9 a.m. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kneisel. Discussion?
Yeah, Madam Chair, give me the reason we can't have it down at the Highway Department again.
The only reason I had is because of closeness. It's very tight down there. We sure would be willing and are accepting of that.
Chris isn't saying anything, but she knows our, I think we should have it down there. I thought COVID was over. Am I wrong?
Yeah. It doesn't make,
Is there restrictions?
That's news says they ain't.
Yeah, well,
Madam Chair, Commissioner Erickson, there's no restrictions at this time. They're just asking people to be very cautious with the Delta variant.
So with that, that's why this is a nice facility. I recommend it here, but you're the board. We will have it wherever you desire.
I guess I'll look to the person who made the motion.
Hey, it don't matter to me.
The second, if you want to change the motion.
well, the motion just set the date.
Oh, we
Say
can have
where,
it down
yeah.
at Public Works.
It says where? It says in county boardroom at 9 a.m. So if you want to change that,
Do what you want. I
I'm
don't
open
care.
to it.
Well, it's easier for them. They're all down there.
Yeah, let's
We
go
can
for
make whatever work, so.
Public Works.
At Public Works Building,
Yeah.
the motion is now to have it at the Public Works Building on the 28th of October at 9 a.m.
Yep.
Okay, I have a motion. Gary, you're okay with the second
Yep.
yet? Okay, any discussion? Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Excellent.
Have the coffee on, right?
We will have it ready to go. So thank you much.
Thank you. I gotta write this in quick.
Let's
Okay.
see.
Ditch inspector? Hi,
Morning.
Nancy.
I just have one agenda item today. Acknowledge receipt of County Ditch 3 hold harmless agreement for ditch maintenance. Todd County Board of Commissioners approves the following by motion. Acknowledge receipt of a hold harmless agreement petition from Chad Basil to clean part of County Ditch 3 on parcel 17,000,2500, Little Sauk Township, Section 3.
Any other information on this one, Nancy, or not? Or I see you
This
have a
is
map
just-
here.
Yeah, this is just to acknowledge receipt of it. I think I did put a map on.
Okay.
It's just a small section that's on his property, what's in the purple there.
Okay. Is there a motion for approval?
So move.
Motion by Newman. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, if they're gonna dig the ditches, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Good morning, Mitch.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I have a couple items. Oops, if I don't fall over. Yeah, watch please. So my first topic is the new roof on Annex 1. The background is the facility committee is recommending replacement of the Annex 1 roof along with the small adjacent roof to the Annex 1. Bids were received with the lowest bid being from Buttweiler's Dual Roofing of $103,730. The options are to approve the budgeted request to redo the roof of Annex 1 along with the small adjacent roof for the low bid total of $103,730 by Buttweiler's Dual Roofing. To approve the budgeted request to redo the roof of Annex 1 only in disregard the small roof for a total of $79,470 with low bid being from Buttweiler Roofing, or do not approve budgeted request. The recommendation is to approve the budget request to redo the roof of Annex 1 along with the small adjacent roof for the low bid of $103,730 by Buttweiler Dual Roofing. The reason being that we're looking at the small adjacent roof is cost effectiveness. It's a very small portion. It's actually over the Sally Part portion, and we do have leaks on that roof as well. And from every contractor that had looked at it, they said, you know, to come in and just solely do a project of that small size, you know, it's just not going to be cost effective for the county. So that's why we were recommending both roofs at this time.
Okay, is any discussion before I call for a motion? Okay, I'll call for a motion for the new roof of Annex 1
And the small adjacent roof.
and the small adjacent roof, okay?
Yep.
Be number 2, right?
It'd be number 1.
Number one.
Okay,
Yep.
number 1, okay, yes.
Yep, so moved.
Motion by Erickson, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kircher. Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Absolutely.
These roofs have been lasting a little less than 20 years, if I understand, correct?
So this is the oldest of the roofs, the Annex 1 roof. It is over its life expectancy, which a life expectancy of a roof is anywhere from 20 to 25 years. This one is over 30 years old, so this one is quite a bit older. The new product that we're going with is basically the new, quote unquote, the new way of doing things. We're going with a fully adhered roof. We are upgrading the insulation value that's on the roof, and that is helpful due to the heating loss. Any type of heating loss, 90% of your heating loss or cooling loss goes out the roof. So that's why this is a good or a better way for us to do things. The other thing that it gives my staff and myself the capability of is with a rock ballast roof, it's very difficult to find leaks if you have them. With a fully adhered roof, we can physically see what's going on instead of scraping back rocks, you know, for 20, 30 feet, if not further. I can see the problem. We can fix the problem. Again, this roof comes with a 20-year warranty. So that's all our positives, and we're starting the process of looking at these roofs because they have been a problem in the past, and this is just the first and the smallest roof that's on my list to tackle. So.
Okay, and financials,
Yep, this would come out of the building improvement fund.
fund.
Yep, correct. This would come out of it, and during my last review, I'd shared some information with you on this of our plan, and this is very capable within the amount. We have anywhere from like 850 to 870,000 in the account currently at this time. So there's definitely money in there to satisfy for this project.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Thank you. My next topic is the new rooftop units on Annex 1. The facility committee is recommending replacement of both aged Annex 1 rooftop units to improve the air quality, as this is identified in COVID-19 mitigation tool outlined in the U.S. Treasury guidance. Bids were requested, with the lowest bid being from H&S Heating for $29,496. The options are to approve the request for new rooftop units from H&S Heating for the low bid of $29,496 with funds sourced from ARP. Do not approve request, and the recommendation is to approve the request for new rooftop units from H&S Heating and Air for the low bid of $29,496 with funds sourced from the ARP to improve the air quality as a COVID-19 mitigation effort. And I do have in the comments, this is one thing that's additional on the 29,000 is an additional 4,000 for a crane unit to drop the rooftop unit on. What we're hoping to do, though, is with the passing of the roof to be redone, to utilize the crane that will be needed to redo the roof. So if I can coordinate that, and if the materials are there at a similar timeline, that we can utilize the roof and save ourselves the $4,000 in that effort. Does that make sense?
Okay, is there a motion for the new rooftop units on Annex 1?
So moved.
Motion by Newman, second Erickson. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good morning, Steve.
All right. What I have today is we made a move from Central Minnesota Task Force back to the West Central Task Force, and we need a joint powers force agreement signed for that. Background: after careful consideration, I decided to leave the Central Minnesota Violent Offender Task Force and join the West Central Minnesota Drug and Violent Crime Task Force. The change is effective immediately. See attached joint powers agreement and resolution. Consideration was we used to be part of West Central. When Dave was sheriff, we were West Central. At the end of his administration, it went to Central Minnesota. Central Minnesota is comprised of Stearns, Morrison, Benton, part of Sherburne, and Todd County. And what's been happening lately with everything that's going on in St. Cloud, our task force member was spending an extraordinary amount of time in St. Cloud helping out down there. Our better bang for our buck is to go back to West Central, where there's doing a lot more work in Todd County. So I made the move right away, because by September we have to have the move made for the grant purposes of each task force. So we are already effectively out of Central and into West Central. They just need the joint powers agreement and resolution. I did have Chuck look at the resolution and agreement, and he said everything looks fine. So options are to approve the Todd County Sheriff's Office joining the West Central Minnesota Drug Violent Crime Task Force effective immediately, or 2, do not approve. Recommendation, of course, is to approve the joining of and signing of the joint powers agreement with the West Central. It is a budgeted item.
Okay. Is there a motion approving the changing to the West Central Minnesota Drug and Violence Crime Task Force?
Second.
Okay, motion by Kirchert, second by Kneisel. Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair. Most of these are in our District 4 AMC district anyway, so it makes more sense to be.
Correct. And also with our 3rd district sheriffs, mainly, there's only a few that aren't, Wadena and Becker aren't with 3rd district, but Otter Tail, Douglas, Pope, Wilkin County, and they're all with 3rd district, so it makes just more sense.
Yep.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks, Steve. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, everyone. The first item this morning is for the Saltwater Conservation District. A review of the job description for the new position that was approved last meeting. The Resource Conservationist Riparian position was approved in creation during the August 3rd Commissioners meeting. The job description for this position was given a final review and some minor changes were made. So the options are to approve the changes as presented or to not approve, and the recommendation at this time was to approve the job description for the Resource Conservationist Riparian position as is presented here. It was no major changes. There was a repetitive line or two and just some other clarifying things in it as we reviewed it were really the only changes.
Okay. And I think one of the changes was a basic performance expectation of all county staff. We wanted to kind of keep that as
Yep.
the same in all applications going out.
Yeah, and we had that essentially in two spots then, just
Yeah.
worded differently, so we removed the one and just kept it in the basic performance.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the riparian job description?
So moved.
Motion by Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kenizel. Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair, on the board action, there's no financial implications, or if it was budgeted. I'm assuming this is grant
Yep.
funded?
This is the one that we discussed at the last meeting where it's all grant-based. For this one, this is just the job description associated with that position that was approved at last meeting.
Yeah, because we had to change the job description that was in our last packet, Randy.
Right, but it should have been on this one too.
It was in the previous motion.
Right,
This is just the description.
right.
So, is there any other discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Okay, on to planning and zoning items. The first one is for JSL Properties request for CUP. A request for conditional use permit was received on July 9th, 2021 to request an expansion to the existing CUP for lumber storage on parcel 26004970 in Ward Township. The request was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the August 5th meeting, and the final recommendation from the Planning Commission was to grant the CUP with no conditions. So the options would be a motion to grant the CUP with no conditions, a motion to deny the CUP, or to remand back to the Planning Commission for further consideration. And the recommendation at this time is a motion to grant the conditional use permit with no conditions.
Okay, is there a motion for, let's see, the JSL Properties request for CUP?
So moved
And which one would you like, Dave?
to approve it.
With no conditions?
Right.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Okay, next is the Graystone First Edition Preliminary Plat. A subdivision request to establish a one-lot preliminary plat on parcel 1400260001, Candota Township, was submitted on July 14th. This was reviewed by the Planning Commission during the August 5th meeting. During the meeting, concerns were raised about an existing location of an access easement to the Graystone Marina. The Planning Commission did not have the adequate information available during the meeting to make an informed recommendation to the Board of Commissioners. The Planning Commission has made a request to extend the application by an additional 60 days in order to allow for additional review of the easement. The initial decision deadline was set for September 12th, and the granting of this extension sets a new decision deadline of November 10th, 2021. So the options would be a motion to extend the application by 60 days to allow for additional review, or to approve this preliminary plat as submitted with conditions, or to deny the preliminary plat. And the recommendation at this time would be a motion to extend the application deadline by the additional 60 days for 120 days total to allow for additional review.
Okay, is there a motion for the Graystone First Edition preliminary plat?
I'll move number one, Madam
Okay.
Chair.
Okay. Motion by Newman for, to extend the application by 60 days. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Okay. So these next few items are ordinance amendments that, if we think back to when COVID started, we intended to get to these, and now that we're removing restrictions and able to have good public hearings, we're starting to tackle a few of these. So the first one is an ordinance amendment to section 6.03B. During the August 5th Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed an amendment to section 6.03B to update the footnote to align with the correct section of the ordinance. The recommendation from the Planning Commission was to update section 6.03B to reference section 9.03 cluster development instead of section 713, which does not exist any longer. A public notice for these ordinance amendments was posted in the legal paper on July 22nd, 2021. The option would be to amend the ordinance as presented, or to not amend the ordinance, or 3, to remand back to the Planning Commission. And the recommendation at this time is to amend section 6.03B of the Planning and Zoning Ordinance as presented.
Okay, is there a motion for the ordinance amendment, section 6.03B?
So moved.
And for number one?
Number 1, amend
Okay.
as presented.
Motion by Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Knizel. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries.
Okay, next is ordinance amendment to section 6.03B. During the July 7th Commissioners' Work Session, discussion was had. I think I got these out of order, don't I? Nope, I got them right. Okay, sorry. During the July 7th Commissioners' Work Session, discussion was had about the peak height restriction of 18 feet for accessory structures and shoreline zoning. This item was then brought to the Planning Commission during the August 5th Planning Commission meeting. After review, the Planning Commission had developed a recommendation to increase the peak height of accessory structures and shoreline zoning from 18 feet to 25 feet. This amendment would change section 6.03E of the Planning and Zoning Ordinance. I had a typo in there, I see. Accessory buildings not meeting all setbacks would still be subject to a maximum peak height of 18 feet. And again, public notice for these items was posted on July 22nd. The options would be amend the ordinance as presented here, or to not, or number 2, do not amend the ordinance, or 3, remand back to the Planning Commission. And the recommendation is to amend section 6.03E of the Planning and Zoning Ordinance as presented.
But first of all, before I ask for a motion, are we talking section 6.03B or 6.03?
E.
E.
E is correct.
E is correct.
Yep.
Okay, then we'll ask for a motion for section 6.03E.
Madam Chair, can we have discussion before we vote?
Yes.
Thank you. This change here will affect probably 2 of the commissioner districts, and that would be mine and Commissioner Kircher's, since we have a lot of the lakes.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is if we open it up to 25 feet, how many more living quarters are we gonna add to Lakeshore?
It's a very valid concern.
Because I'm within Lakeshore right now, so I could take my shed, tear it down, and go 25 feet high, put my man cave in there, and what would that do to my septic system? So I'm just
Yep.
gonna use that for an example.
Yep.
I know other counties, our surrounding counties are 25 feet, okay? I've seen some of my constituents come in, request the 25 feet, got denied, had to stay with the 18. So, you know, are we gonna open up a can of crap that we're not gonna like with this?
I have very similar concerns to yours. That was cautioned to the Planning Commission during the meeting. I will share that the vote was 3-2. There was some back and forth. I can't speak for sure on behalf of all the planning commission members, but they looked at our statistics of the Board of Adjustments and what they were granting for variances. And I think the thought was that if you're granting 25-foot peak heights already through the variance process, why don't we adjust the ordinance as is? A couple concerns that I have with that is if peak heights are getting that high, additional living quarters and accessory structures, lofts and things of that nature that we may never be aware of is a concern. Additionally, when the Board of Adjustments has the opportunity to review these cases, they can place reasonable conditions on that variance, such as screening or a condition that says it cannot be used as living quarters, and it just makes it more clear to those applicants. I have similar concerns. I also see the point of raising it to 25 if we're granting those also, but I guess just trying to give you the full scope of the situation. Originally, my staff recommendation was for 22 feet, and then after discussion, the recommendation went to 25.
Any further discussion?
I think in watching the Board of Adjustments one come through, I'd like to know the percentage that are granted.
Since I have been with Todd County, I don't think we've ever denied a peak height increase. There are screening conditions and maybe some other various things that go with it, but I don't recall a single application in the past 2 years that we've denied for a peak height increase. But it is good in a sense to have the Board of Adjustments have a little bit of say in the process so that they do have the ability to put conditions if necessary on some of those larger peak heights.
And I think the peak heights are coming into play because of the size of the building, the widths of the building, not, and then also the accommodation of like your motorhomes and stuff like that. So when you do that, I mean, if you're restricting them, you're then putting a lower peak pitch or whatever on the buildings and stuff, and it just can't be done.
A vast majority of our variance requests, I would say probably all of them, are related to campers and RVs. They need a larger door. Larger doors require bigger peak height. And that's where in this, I had Jacob do some research on this, looking at neighboring counties, but also called around to some of the local building companies like Morton Buildings and such to get a gauge of what they would recommend based on what they typically design for buildings. And it was more in that 22-foot range in order to accommodate a 14-foot door. And also, over the past 2 years, looking at all of our peak height increases just for accessory structures, the average of the variance granted was 22.4 feet.
Adam, I got a question.
Yep.
Going through the planning and zoning, can you put certain restrictions on it at the time they come for planning and zoning? Or would this just be over-the-counter approval?
If we go to 25 feet, it would be just the land use permit over-the-counter administrative permitting, which really limits our ability to put additional conditions on permits. Sometimes we put conditions on stuff that are related to erosion control and things of that nature, but it's tough to put conditions in an administrative permit unless there are performance standards in the ordinance related to it.
Okay.
I think an important sentence in here there, just to clarify for Barb, is that these would meet all setbacks.
Correct.
That's the only ones that would come through without going through the planning commission.
Yep, they would need to meet the lake setback, sidelines, road right-of-way, and meet every ordinance requirement in order to qualify to go to that 25-foot peak height.
Yeah, to where it would be an automatic.
It would be an automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So there's other stuff that prevails first, but
Okay.
again, it really doesn't affect me a lot. I just want it to be clear on
Yep.
what we're looking at.
All right. Any further discussion? I will call for a motion for section 6.03E. Motion by Kircher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Erickson. Further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
And carries.
Okay. Ordinance amendment to section 6.04B. During the August 5th Planning Commission meeting, the Planning Commission reviewed amendment to section 6.04B to clarify the requirements of a second single-family home on a parcel in shoreline zoning. The recommendation from the Planning Commission was to update the use tables to a permittable use and create a footnote that it is allowed as long as the property and the home are meeting the requirements of section 7.04E guest cottage. Public notice for this, again, was posted in the legal paper on July 22nd. The option would be to amend the ordinance as presented, or 2, do not amend, or 3, remand back to the Planning Commission for further review. And the recommendation at this time is to amend section 6.04 B of the planning and zoning ordinance as presented. This is a confusing one in our use tables. There's an old X with the cross out, and then it says it's permittable, and there's no footnote. But a second single-family home is not allowed on a single parcel in shoreline zoning, but you can have a guest cottage, and that's what it's attempting to reference. So just for the sake of clarity, we wanted to clean that up and create a footnote so it's very clear that just outright a second single-family home is not allowed, but you need to meet those requirements of a guest cottage, which is your lot size needs to be of a duplex standard, and then you're restricted to 700 square feet for the home and a 15-foot peak height.
Yeah, I guess I got a question. Can that guest cottage be lived in 12 months out of the year?
There's no restrictions on how it's used.
Okay.
It can be temporary or permanent residence. We see that sometimes with older parents move out into the guest cottage and the kids buy the home, situations like that. But our ordinance currently does not have a restriction on the amount of use. It's just more on structure dimensions.
Okay.
I'd have another question then too, just for clarification then, Adam, really it was already in there? It was just unclear?
Yes, it's a little confusing when you look at it. And there's no reference in the footnote of why it's like that. So just that additional level of clarity made sense to us to provide that when, if somebody from the public is reviewing it, they know to look at that footnote and then reference that additional section of the ordinance.
So not changing the parameters, what was there, just clarifying it so it's clear?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair,
No.
on any of these, did you receive any public comment?
None, except on the peak height one, we invited our Board of Adjustments Chair, Rick Johnson, which is from your district, to come and talk about their perspective of why they brought this to light. Outside of that, there was no public involvement at all.
Okay. And just a comment, Madam Chair, where I live, I'm in the shoreline district because it's 1,000 feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
It would take Noah's Ark flooding to reach my house, just because of the lake and where I'm at. And that probably applies to a majority of around that lake, in particular, the lake I live by. So if I wanted a second cottage, so-called on my 40 acres, I could have a second cottage, plus I believe I could have a second home on, there's 2 homes allowed on a 40, am I correct?
In shoreline zoning, you're only allowed 1 home per parcel in shoreline zoning. I don't know if your reference to 2 houses on a 40 is in AF2 zoning, and you still need to have those as separate properties.
Well, the rest of my property, I believe, would be AF2.
I'd have to look at a map to confirm that or to know exactly, but in that case, you could have a second home, but you'd need to create a separate parcel do a split off of that and put it on a separate. This allows you to have still a single parcel with a second home on it, meeting those additional restrictions.
So I could, in theory, have 3 homes.
Yes. Yep.
If I did it right.
Mm-hmm. And there's additional avenues if you wanted even more homes through a conditional use process and whatever, but yes.
And in response to Commissioner Newman's questions, in my property, if I wanted to build a 25-foot building, it would have no effect on anyone. Because I'm 1,000 feet away from the lake.
Right.
Well, within 1,000 feet, so it really would have no effect, and we have a lot of instances like that.
Yeah, we have had some variances where they're 850 feet from the lake, and they need to come for a variance.
Right.
In those cases, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's where the ordinance was written that way at the time. I think it's more when you get up in those lakefront properties where it becomes, you know, sometimes you have second tier development.
Right.
It's intended for views and stuff like that. So
And I think sooner or later, we're gonna get into third tier.
it very likely.
Okay, I will ask for a motion for section 6.04B.
I'll make a motion to go with option 1, amend the ordinance as presented.
Okay, we have a motion for option 1 from Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Kircher. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Good morning.
Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
All right, we have a couple BAFs to present. The first one is to approve the federal fiscal year 2022 low-income home energy assistance program and low-income household water and assistance program grant contract. Some background. Todd County Health and Human Services will administer and deliver the energy assistance program and household water assistance program to Todd County residents, with federal fiscal year 2022 beginning October 1st, 2021. The Office of Legislative Auditor requires the Minnesota Department of Commerce to ensure service providers maintain an effective internal control system and appropriate management of public funds. The internal controls documentation effective internal control system, I'm sorry, I rewrote that. The internal controls documentation helps meet the requirement of documenting specific aspects of a service provider's internal controls. The ICD is organized in accordance with the United States Government Accountability Office's standards of internal control in federal government. Options to approve the federal fiscal year 2022 low-income home energy assistance program and low-income household water assistance program grant contract, or number 2, to not approve. Recommendation is to approve the federal fiscal year low-income home energy assistance program and low-income household water assistance program grant contract.
Okay, is there a motion for the low-income home energy and low-income household water assistance program?
So moved.
Motion by Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kanai. So, Jackie, I got a question. As I'm reading this, what is the household water assistance program?
Lisa, I'll let you respond, but it's a new program.
It's money that they receive through, you know, it's COVID funding. We have not received any direction yet as to how we're gonna, or how we're supposed to implement this program, so we're still waiting. You know, I'd be happy to explain that to you after they tell us what it is, but we did have annual training for energy assistance last week, but that was not part of it. I guess they're not ready to share that information with us yet, or don't have the details ready to go yet. So we have one more training, not scheduled, but they said we'd have a separate training for the water program.
Okay. Make sure you bring that forward as you learn about it.
Sure, I
Okay.
can do that.
Wouldn't that, I was just thinking, wouldn't that pertain to more of helping drill wells and stuff for these low-income people out in the country that?
My understanding my understanding is that it'll be to pay water bills, because right now that's
Soil and
not
water.
included in energy assistance. You know, we can help with
Okay.
electricity.
Well, people within the town, you have your water bills.
Water.
That's where you get,
That's my understanding.
that would be my best guess
Yeah,
also,
I would
but
too.
It would, it wouldn't surprise me, Dave, if it would expand off to rural, you know, something of the sort where somebody had a water issue.
Pay all their bills.
It
Be-
could be, but.
So far, all we've been directed to do is get some vendors on board, which would be the water utility companies within our county. So the ones that aren't already, you know, like City of Staples, they're already a vendor because electricity that's all wrapped into one, there, where I think it's Long Prairie and Hewitt maybe are the two vendors that
Bertha
we
would
had
be
to add.
separate too.
So we're
Okay.
paying their energy, we're paying their water, we're paying for their groceries, they don't have to pay rent because of the no eviction, and we're giving them unemployment.
Busier than we ever have been, so.
Yeah. I see under financial implications it's zero. This is totally grant funded then,
A part of
correct?
that.
Between grant, or is it COVID funding, or where does, or
Well,
is there a line even in between it any longer?
That's a great question.
My understanding is that the funds would be kept separate.
Okay.
You know, the energy assistance, those are federal funds that we get every year, but the water now is something new with, whichever act it came out of, I'm not sure.
Madam
Once
Chair,
they
I
start
believe
it,
it's
they won't
the,
quit it.
They make it sound like it's for 1 year, but
Yeah.
yes, I agree.
Madam Chair, I just had a
Yes.
quick question too. Are these both kind of new then? I mean, is the energy assistant
No.
one new, or is that an existing, but just the water one is new? Is that
The
it?
energy assistance
Is the one that's every year? or
that
been
we
there
have
for
every
years?
year.
Okay.
It's just that the service providers for energy assistance
Okay.
are to implement this new program.
I was just curious.
Madam Chair, well, in the low energy thing, weren't we paying electrical bills anyway?
Yeah, electricity, but not water.
Water.
Yeah, I know, so what if we said we didn't want to accept this water thing?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Well, where is this gonna stop? I'm sorry, I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Yeah, you're asking the wrong person there.
Madam Chair, I think this is part of the American Rescue Plan.
It
so
is.
A portion of
A
it.
portion of it,
The water portion of it is.
yeah. Okay, I think I have a motion and a second.
Madam Chair, I just
Yes.
had one more question, and I'm not sure I'm asking it in the right spot, but Commissioner Kircher brought that up too in regards to the rent situations or people doing that. Is there funding here that pays rent for people like that why I'm asking is, like investors looking at rental properties right now, if you go out and buy a rental property and somebody moves in it, and then they're protected by the fact that they don't have to pay their rent, but the landlord still has to pay his payment. Is there any payment justification coming through in the assistance end of it that helps the investor? You know what I'm saying? Do you guys pay out rent in that situation, or is that just taken away and?
We do have emergency assistance that can cover an eviction for non-payment of rent.
Probably for a shorter period of time. though, right?
Exactly, because
Yeah.
the amount that we get, you know, with the amount that people owe right now, we'd only be able to serve 3 people
Right.
with the yearly grant that we get.
Right,
But there is through Minnesota, Rent Help Minnesota is where we're referring most people to.
okay.
And they'll pay, it's either 15 or 18 months
So
back,
that money then
back to
would-
last
that
March.
money
March
then would go
2020.
to the investor or landlord or whatever then?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
Yep.
I just was curious. I had never really
And
heard
that
there
covers,
was-
it can also cover utility bills
And it will protect the renter from being evicted as well.
Yep, yep,
until June of 2022,
yeah,
as long as have an application pending.
gotcha.
And there
And-
are thousands and thousands
Of
and thousands of
applications.
Yep.
pending.
Yeah,
And there's a way, though, for a landlord to go out and be able to see that
See
their
that
renter
coming.
has applied, so
Oh, there is a way or isn't?
there is a way for them to somehow go on that website and find that information out.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm all for the low-income energy assistance program, but you have these combined into one board action. Is it possible to separate them?
This is, Madam Chair, I believe this is how it was delivered to us, to present to our boards for action.
And right now, we don't have a lot of information on the water to even,
Madam Chair, we could definitely bring that back at a work session for discussion once we receive more information, but this is how they are rolling out these programs as we're bringing forth today.
Well, it's kind of forced on you.
Yeah, they didn't give us an option. They just said the energy assistance service providers would be,
We'll do this.
provide or implement the water program along with the energy assistance program.
okay. And I do believe I have a motion in a second? Right?
Yes, you have,
yes.
been making the motion, can I have a second?
Okay. Any other discussion? And at this time, there's no, okay, we will vote on it as written, as the motion was, said. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. I'm
And-
opposed to the low-income water. I'm not opposed to the low-income energy because we have always done that. This is something new they're pushing down our throats again, and I think it's time that we start saying no to some of this stuff, people.
Okay, and the vote, it would carry. And please
We
bring,
will,
bring it back
absolutely.
as we, this is real interesting, yeah.
I certainly will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. All right, our last board action form to be presented is the request to hire a team lead social worker. Some background, child protection is a high-stress, high burnout position. The team lead social worker position would work with child services staff to maximize individual and team performance through effective application of team leadership duties, including onboarding, training, auditing, coaching, problem solving, work direction, and related duties. The team lead would work closely with the unit supervisor to ensure programs and initiatives, as well as standard operating policies, are effectively communicated and executed within the team. Options: to authorize the hiring of a team social worker, to not authorize. Number 2. Recommendation is to authorize the hiring of a team lead social worker. I believe we brought this for review at a work session, probably about a month or so back. And it has gone through personnel and through HR with the job description and position grading.
I'm trying to get to my spot on my computer. Jackie, what was the financial, and I can't, it's up here. Okay, it is up here. Okay, I will ask for a motion to hire a team lead social worker.
So moved.
Motion by Erickson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kircher. Discussion?
Yes, Madam Chair. So is this a position within that you're gonna bump up and then replace?
We are hopeful, Madam Chair, we are hopeful to have an internal promotion. So at this time, I think we will post it internally and see what applicants we have, if we have any.
Okay.
And the second part of Randy's question, would then that person that's being, if or when, that would be re-advertising for that other person's position?
Yes, there
then?
would be a domino effect if it would
Okay.
be an internal promotion.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, I will ask for a motion.
I think you got it.
Or did I have a motion?
Have a motion and a second.
Yep.
Okay, very good. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Pete.
Madam Chair, I have a board action this morning for the County Veteran Service Officer reappointment. The background is Minnesota Statute 197.60 directs all counties shall have a county veteran service officer. The veteran service officer shall be appointed by the Board of County Commissioners, and appointment shall be made for a term of 4 years. The appointment of Pete Burscheid as County Veteran Service Officer is due to expire December 1st of 2021. The options are to approve reappointment of Pete Burscheit, County Veteran Service Officer, or to not approve, and the recommendation is to approve the reappointment of Pete Burscheit as County Veteran Service Officer.
Is there a motion for the approval?
So moved.
Okay. Is there a motion by Newman? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kircher. Discussion?
Where's your suit and tie?
I'm sorry?
Where's your suit and tie?
Oh.
Any further
You missed the
discussion?
memo, didn't
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And carry? And you get to stay with us, right? Happy to hear it. Happy to have you.
Thanks for the good job you
Yeah,
do.
thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess now we'll go into closed session for negotiations. The commissioners will hold a closed session pursuant of Minnesota statute 13D.03 to consider strategies for labor negotiations. And the time is 10:10. Okay,
a second.
what time is it?
Started streaming.
Okay. You're good to go then.
Okay. I'll have a motion to open the meeting back up. The time is 10:57. We're coming back from the closed session. So is there a motion to reopen the board
I
meeting?
believe you can just call the meeting
Can
back
I?
to order.
Okay, then I will call it back to order again. And we'll go into standing reports. Auditor Treasurer?
I don't think I have anything to report right now, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners' reports?
I have nothing.
Okay, I do, Rick Adamits called me and asked that I let all the commissioners know that September 15th, they're having their annual township meeting at the Clarissa Ballroom at 6 PM. So if you'd like to put that on your calendar, they would like to have as many of us attend as can be there.
When was that again?
September 15th
What
at
time?
6 o'clock. Clarissa Ballroom. And maybe we could put that on our calendar too, Denise.
6 p.m.
Yeah, I'll
And you'll
post
have to have
I
it
just
so
got off
that-
the phone with him just before he came up.
Oh,
'cause
okay.
He invited me to speak,
Yeah.
and then
Okay.
I asked if he had contacted.
Yes,
And he said that he had spoke to you last night. So
Yep.
yes, it's the 15th at Clarissa Ballroom.
at 6 PM.
Is he contacting Rick Utek too to
He
speak?
has a list of people that he calls
Wednesday
annually.
night.
Okay,
Okay,
Right, yes.
talk about broadband anyway.
okay.
So we
Any,
will post that.
okay.
Nice.
Any other commissioners' reports? We will go coordinator report.
Madam Chair, I have nothing at this time.
Okay, then we will have a motion to adjourn, and the next meeting will be, and I did not look it up, what's the date? Be September
7th?
September 7th?
Yep.
Okay. Is there a motion for adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Newman, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Knizel. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor? Opposed? And we are adjourned for the month Start the work session. The time is 11:05, and first on the list is Nancy with County Ditch 8.
Okay, I'll make these really quick. Okay, so for the, if you want to switch to the.
Oh,
county ditch-
sorry, do you have something?
Yeah, there should be something.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you wanted, never mind. Go ahead.
Nope. So, County Ditch 8, we did the maintenance project on this in, I believe, 2014. And so the areas that had the most trees, some of the landowners were trying to keep the trees down themselves, so they wouldn't have to pay another assessment. But there's small brush that's growing back that's getting ahead of them, and they're not getting it taken care of. There is a small amount of money in their ditch fund, and that would cover the cost of spraying. So we decided that instead
Nancy,
of.
where is County Ditch 8?
County Ditch
I'm
8,
trying to look at this, and all I don't see no
it's
names.
right off of County Road 21, a little bit north of County Road 20.
You don't have a map for that one.
I've got a map, but I don't see names. I just see parcel numbers.
Oh,
and-
yeah, okay.
and-
So this would be Hilmer, Dave Hilmer.
Okay.
North of Barville.
North
On
of
the S
Barville.
curves, first set of S curves.
Yep, Greg Ostrowski lives on this one. Those guys. So yeah, it's up
Okay.
north of County 20 on kind of along County Road 21.
Okay.
So because brush is the most expensive thing of ditch cleaning, we might as well spray it now and keep ahead of it. And that fund balance is $4,757.51. This is a short distance to spray, so I'm pretty sure we can get it sprayed for under what their fund balance is.
Nancy, does this have to come in front of the board again, or?
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
so
So
we
I'm-
will be seeing this
Yes,
again.
so I'm gonna go, after this, I'm gonna go and get a quote from basically the contractor. And then
Okay.
I'll bring it to another board meeting, to get the board decision on it.
Okay. Then when you bring that map, can you make it
Yep.
so that we can
Yeah, this
kinda-
is, you wouldn't be able to see anything if I
know.
put that border on here. That's
Yeah.
why I did it without one. But yeah, when I do the presentation for the actual,
Okay.
approval, it will have all that stuff on there.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions, comments?
Okay. And then the next one is ditch 15. This one, we had the minor maintenance that we did last year on sections that landowners have been doing hold harmless agreements, but they were pieces of ditch line that weren't on their properties. And so they couldn't do it as a hold harmless, so they asked the ditch to do it. So this is another part that landowners have,
Okay, where's this 15?
do I have another map for that one?
Ward Township.
We'll look.
Sorry, that's supposed to be ditch 8, sorry about that. I'll switch that out.
Ditch 15, right here.
That was 8.
Nope, that's 8. Here, there's 15.
Okay.
Okay, so this is a little short section of ditch in
Oh,
purple on
Bertha.
here.
Okay.
Downstream of it has been the hold harmless agreement that Jeffrey Lopez did, and upstream of it is the short section of ditch that goes east-west that Delbert Greenwald and Lynn Smith did, and then north of that was a short section, actually the 3/4 of a mile that we cleaned on that minor maintenance. So this short section here, Jeffrey Lopez has submitted a petition seeing if the ditch authority will clean that. He wanted to do tiling on his property, and the section that he cleaned as a hold harmless, he did because he didn't have time to wait for us to run it through the process for the ditch authority. And so this one also, there is ditch maintenance, or the ditch maintenance fund, there's enough money in there to pay for this. We can do it as a minor maintenance without having to have public hearings, just like we did with the last one and wasting money on hearings and attorneys and stuff. We can just do it as a minor maintenance. So this is just that short section. And the same thing, I'll get a contractor estimate and then bring it to another board meeting and to get a minor maintenance to get your decision on that.
Okay.
So that's about it on that
Commissioners,
one.
any questions? Okay, we'll bring it to board.
Yep, and it'll probably be coming to the next board meeting in
Okay.
September. Yep, and then do you want me staying here for this, or do? Okay. I can't run. So are you
Oh,
gonna?
which one are you on?
Okay, ditch
Ditch
maintenance.
Yep, your ditch assessment.
Sorry, I was kind of all over with your PowerPoint there.
Sorry.
about that.
So you're doing this, or I'm doing this?
It doesn't matter, either one.
Okay.
We're both on for it,
All
but
right.
this is just the annual assessment that we do from July 2020 through June 20 of 21, and this will be on taxes payable for 2022. These are the proposed ditch assessments, that we have them listed by the ditch number here, the total assessment that Nancy has come up with. If we have a listing there, if it includes any prior expenses that are being assessed with that amount, and then what its anticipated expenses would include. On just the footnote down there, that County Ditch 18 still has that loan from December of 17, where we transferred the 300,000 from the general fund to cover. That's still in its cycles of assessments, and those are applied each year till that runs out and is paid. You have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, the only ones of note are ditch 27, which is up there on, up there by Bertha. That one, we have been trapping on Partridge Creek, which is the outlet of that ditch, because it's been totally blocked up with beaver, and I've gotten permission to trap outside of the ditch system, and there's still more trapping to do and more dams, so that's why I did that much of an assessment on that one. And then on ditch 28, there's gonna try and get a minor repair approved by the DNR to clean a section of ditch that was not cleaned when we did the project on ditch 28 back in 2010, I think we did that one. It's an outlet of a lake, so I need to see if I can get permission. So we assessed a little bit higher for that one, just if we can get that project approved. Part of that'll be assessed already. And otherwise, they kind of have a chronic beaver issue up there, so if it's not used for the minor project, will be used for beaver trapping and dam removal in the future.
Okay.
And that's all I had for.
Okay, Denise, this has to be brought in front of the
We'll be
board
bringing
meeting
this
then?
as a board action at the next meeting.
Okay,
That we'll be putting on for the special assessments for taxes paid 2022.
okay, any questions? Okay, sounds good.
All right,
Yep,
thank you.
thanks. Jeremy?
Good morning.
Morning.
So we are looking at purchasing a truck and trailer as part of our 5-year, well, now we're trying to get it maybe more of a 10-year capital expenditure plan. Trying to keep the rotation going with them all. We did bring it to the Solid Waste Committee meeting, and then it was advised to bring to the work session here before we brought it to board. I do got quotes already going on the truck and trailers. I believe they were all sent to you. I did get a couple updates on them, but it was after I sent these in, so.
You just have to let me know if there's a particular one you want to go to. We just plunk them.
Well, going through the bids, if you're looking at them, I would probably keep it the same as what we did in the last 2 times, which would be the Freightliner, which is looking at about 175 for the truck, and then the trailer's 31,000.
Jeremy, is this that hook truck then that we're looking
Yes.
at?
Yep, so this would keep our cycle going with them.
How many miles does that hook truck have on it right now?
This one would have 600 and some thousand on it, a little over 650, somewhere in there. It's a 2004.
And are these hook trucks used to haul back and forth to Perm?
For perm, for the roll-offs, for the demolition, for all of our recycling with our bins. So even with the new facility, we're still gonna need to utilize these trucks. It's just if we go with the walking floor trailers, instead of having 4 trucks, we'll probably be able to go down to 3 trucks, because we'll need just a straight truck for the walking floor trailers or whatever, so. And at that time, we can still trade in one of these trucks. I mean, there's still gonna be value to it, so. I just think it's important to keep the rotation going so they don't get too far behind, but.
I guess, how does this fit in with the plans for solid waste and the building, and did we budget for any of this when we were doing that? Or is this totally separate for the
Well,
solid
this is-
waste?
this
This
isn't
would be
in
just
the-
a hook and.
This isn't in the
The bonding, right?
This isn't the bond.
No, I know it's not the bonding, but the overall project.
Madam Chair, Jeremy, you maybe want to clarify, this is part of your operating plan, your 5-year, your 10-year, it's budgeted.
Yep, so it is
Capital-
budgeted for the capital expenditures, yep,
It's budgeted, right?
yep.
So,
And like you said, this truck would be needed even when.
Either way.
Yeah. It's just we might be able to go down instead of 4 hook trucks down to 3 here in the future, but, or 2, whatever, but.
bring it back to the board.
Okay, no, I just advised to bring to the work session to inform you all.
Any
and-
other questioners, commissioners, comments? Okay, then bring it to the next
Next
board
board
meeting.
meeting? Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's a price tag. Daycare.
Hi, again.
How do you two work in this?
I know, right? Adam just has a lot of good discussion, so. And actually, we just happened to run across this recently, so we
Yeah.
thought it would be a good discussion to bring forth.
Well, just a little background on how this came up. We had a in-home daycare facility that started in a zoning district that requires a conditional use permit. So there was a complaint from a neighbor about a daycare starting in the neighborhood. We reviewed it and said, you need a conditional use, notified them. The whole conversation circled back to, it's Alyssa, right?
Alyssa from Sourcewell, we contract with them around the daycare.
Okay.
And so I got in touch with her and we were discussing this and come to find out that a similar issue was going on in Wadena County where, Jackie will talk about this a little bit more about the need for daycare facilities. And the issue that they had in Wadena was the conditional use process and the cost and the septic compliance and everything was really limiting people from pursuing in-home daycare facilities. And it seems to be a similar issue in Todd County here, where right now we don't have anything in the ordinance except that just explicitly states that in Shoreland, R2, those more residential type areas, that you need a conditional use permit, which is very likely where outside of the cities, that's where you're going to have daycares. And it's really limiting opportunities for people to start daycare facilities. So we're here starting a discussion, searching for options on how we move forward to make this process a little more friendly and easier to get daycares fired up in Todd County. And I don't know if you want.
So I don't know Adam's world, but he calls me and says, we have this ordinance out there that can be pretty costly if there's any interest in daycare facilities opening up. And so we talked about the cost a little bit as it is today, and that is,
It's $350 to start the process, but the bigger cost is we can't even accept an application if your septic is not compliant. You need to prove compliance. And there may be sites out there that want to start a daycare that also need a septic system. And that's a significant cost of, we'll just say $10,000. And any grants or anything that we have available currently are income-based. And so they very likely wouldn't even qualify for that. So the cost is on them or our county loan program, but that was never an option before either.
so my thought is, how can we encourage daycare providers follow what needs to be done in Adam's world, but also not consider it to be a burden for people in applying, because we definitely are in a critical shortage for providers. I have the numbers of total center-based providers as well as family child care licenses. We just know that we have a gap, and we don't want to restrict people if there's any interest. And then, as you know, I think it was in early August, Initiative Foundation came in and did their presentation and all the work they have done. Since then, we've met with our 5 county directors with the Initiative Foundation to talk about the work they've done, because we hadn't been real familiar with what they'd been offering. But we don't want to overlap what Initiative Foundation is doing, but complement and encourage people to open up daycare, in-home daycare licenses or child care centers because of the critical shortage. So Adam, and Chris, we had a discussion with Chris too as to how can we encourage individuals to consider applying with interest.
Okay. Jackie, when they go into Sourcewell for a license, is there a certain number of children they can have to get different licenses? I mean, is there different stages to their license?
Madam Chair, there is a number of different type of class licenses they can apply for that have different limitations on age limits of kids.
Okay, do all of these licenses, no matter what license it is, have to go through what Adam is talking about with the sewer system and the planning and zoning part of it? I guess that's my question.
What I'm trying to figure out too.
Okay.
So the only thing with the sewer and the conditional use that from planning and zoning's perspective, that would only be triggered if they're in a zoning district where a conditional use is required. I'm trying
And
to
what
find the
zoning
page back. It's not coming.
district would that be?
Shoreland, R2, and then a couple other like urban growth, but we don't have urban growth zone anymore. And then rural town site, so more of those densely populated residential type agricultural districts don't require conditional use, and then daycare facilities are not allowed at all in commercial zones. So it's
Which
really,
would make sense.
yeah, so it's just those, 3-ish zoning districts where you need a conditional use, but those obviously are the areas that are more densely populated where you're gonna have a daycare facility.
Right.
So, I said to Adam, how can we utilize, and Chris has been asking as well, these new COVID dollars to help complement this need. And so we've just kind of been throwing out ideas as to how can we can enhance our daycare providers.
And I
Go
think
ahead.
the first step here is how do we take a step forward in making this easier for people to get daycare started? Some ideas we've tossed around is bringing a resolution before the board to waive conditional use fees, and then coupled with the grant stuff, using those COVID funds potentially, it would encourage people to take advantage of that for a period of time here. Other options is to remove that conditional use issue, and then looking at Stearns County as an example, they have performance standards for in-home daycares and then like a larger, like commercial style daycare facility. Is that an option? That's going to require ordinance amendments and timing. There's different avenues we can address this, and we're just here to start the conversation, I guess.
And
about
really,
that.
the performance standards are what the state requires in obtaining a license. So it's not any extra standards that they would need to adhere to the county, but what is required in order to get a license already.
Now, if I, been a long time since I was involved in this, do they have to have like bathroom facilities, sleeping facilities to get their license?
I think it depends on what kind of license you're applying for. I think daycare in-home licenses are different than what your center-based licenses are.
Okay.
With the number of personnel, with training, with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, if I may, it seems the county board and the planning and zoning, we pass regulations and rules, but one size doesn't fit all. So what we should do, what's happening in planning and zoning, and believe me, I believe in the rules and stuff, but I also believe that we need to have the availability to be flexible to provide, because what we're doing is restricting services, and we're restricting growth in the county. So we've got to have some kind of flexibility on how we're approaching these issues. Now, daycare is only one of them. And then, Adam, we've been talking about a supper club in my area where, their hands are tied, really. The supper club was built so close to the lake that what can they do? But they want to be a supper club. So I think what we have to do is sit down and say, where's our flexibility? Where can we flex our roles? And we always look at how can we fund. Well, I don't think we should always look at how can we fund. If we bend the rules or flex the rules a little bit, maybe we don't have to fund. Because we shouldn't be dishing out money all the time to everybody to say, here's 10,000, go do this, here's 100,000. We should be saying, flex the rules, say, okay, I've talked to you about an instance where in my district, some years ago, someone wanted to have an adjustment, a variance, and it was denied because the statement was made that your kitchen is big enough, you don't need a bigger kitchen. That was kind of a rude statement, kind of a statement that should have never been made. And why can't they enlarge their kitchen? So I just think that we need to look at where can we flex the rules a little bit, because there are issues out there, and this is only one of them. There's probably a handful of them out there
And-
that we should be able to
Madam-
flex the rules a little bit. So-
Madam Chair, and I agree. I mean, this is why, when Adam called me, I mean, sometimes we work closely together, but we don't realize how much we overlap and when these things kind of fall through. But yeah, we have some ideas around how we could utilize the ARP funding in the meantime while we have it available, for starter, because we have a great need for daycare providers in our communities. You can talk to your constituents and they're gonna tell you with young children, that's their greatest issue, is that they're having to commute to find a daycare provider for an infant. I have a fellow employee here in the county that has an infant, she can't find a daycare provider to take her infant, and she's expecting almost within the next month or couple weeks. So with that, we've been working with Sourcewell. We know what our need is, although they're going to give us some information as what our greatest need is. I know that infancy is one of our greatest issues, but how can we incentivize members of our community to start up a license, in-home or child care center? Sourcewell has been a great resource for us, and they've come up with some thoughts on how we could complement new daycare with kits. What does it take to start up a new daycare just in supplies? And that they estimated that to be about $500, and they've got them all listed out. I don't have that in front of me, but even from a computer to a printer that's in that, and they can get bulk pricing at a reasonable price in that startup kit. We know that some are probably out of compliance with their septic. So how can we help them become compliant, but possibly in a grant form that they agree to be a child care provider for X so many years until that cost is, I don't know, used over the years. We're just throwing out ideas as how we can utilize and create or increase our child care providers throughout the county, even with septic assessments, helping possibly with that fee as well through these new funds, these ARP funds, COVID. So this is, like Adam had said, this is typically his first step, and then to take it to his planning commission.
Well, it depends on which direction we want to go here. If we're looking at amending the ordinance to include the performance standards or remove that requirement of conditional use, then it has to go to the planning commission. If we think we're just going to temporarily waive fees for the conditional use process, that can be a resolution next board meeting, and we can move forward from there. And I think based on the three of us, our past conversation, we think that might be an appropriate step. Creating performance standards is great, but again, it goes back to what you had mentioned, that it's not a one-size-fits-all system. By giving the planning commission the ability to look at individual sites and place conditions that are appropriate to that specific situation, I think makes a lot of sense. And sometimes it may come forward and there's no conditions. We see that sometimes. But if the first hurdle is cost to temporarily, for I don't know what the period of time would be, but to waive that $350 fee to at least get the application in the door maybe is an appropriate and fairly simple step to take. Again, the septic compliance, all the components of a conditional use would still apply. So we're looking at, what are those other costs besides the application fee we still have to address, but waiving fees for daycare facilities seems to be a simple and fairly logical step first here to address some daycare providers.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
I agree we have issues with daycare and stuff, but I'm gonna share a story. 4th of July, we're on a lake lot, and a friend of my son's comes up to me and says, "Randy, are we in Todd or Douglas?" And I said, "Why?" And she says, "Well, I'm a realtor, and we love coming into Todd County because you have no rules." And I think to myself, what the hell? County commissioner, she knew I was a county commissioner. And it's just like, yeah, you don't have the rules that Douglas County has. So it's like, what are we doing? I don't know. It just makes you think. And I understand we have issues with daycare. We need more daycare. We need to fix the problem. But is your septic system, is that really a big deal? if you have 10 kids, between you and your wife, or you have 10 kids in daycare? You know, what the hell's the septic system got to do with it?
So the septic system comes in because you have to prove compliance with your application, but it may be that it passes. The size of your septic in a daycare facility wouldn't be based on the daycare, it'd be again based on the number of bedrooms in the home per the state septic rules. I think part of why daycares were never addressed before is because people were starting daycares and we were never aware of it. And now we've had a situation come up and we've been in contact with Alyssa and now she's aware, and I'm sure we're going to have a great working relationship going forward. And, you know, situations like this are unfortunate, but it helps to get things back on the right course of action.
Well, we talk about planning and zoning stuff, but for daycares, they have so many other rules that's preventing a lot of these from getting started or even quitting because there's so many
Background checks?
cribs that gotta be such and such way and locks on doors and, you know, everything like that. And they have so many rules now that cost them to fix their house up to be.
Liabilities.
So, Madam Chair, when we had discussions, Jackie and Adam and I, we talked about 4 or 5 different areas where there's needs, there's childcare, there's housing, there's broadband, there's all different kinds of things. Jackie and I have had that conversation. You as commissioners did an excellent job of supporting those small businesses through the CARES Act dollars, and I think there is an opportunity to make another impact with these new funds through the ARP dollars to maybe help where there is a great need. So that's the conversation we had.
Right. I would almost like to have you guys come to another work session as you investigate this a little bit more or a little bit more in depth, and to have the community kind of be able to air their feelings on this as we go forward. Yeah, I don't know if we're ready to bring it back to a board, but I would like to see a work session on it again. I really would.
I agree, with more information of
Yeah.
everything all the players that are involved, just
Yeah.
to start up a daycare. Whether it's law enforcement, because you gotta do a background check, I'm assuming.
DHS, that would
Right.
be, they're done
Yeah.
through Department of Human
Okay.
Services.
And those
Planning and
rules have
zoning, all that.
changed so much in the last few years.
You know, I'll let Adam kind of lead as to, you know, what his next step is around the ordinance and things. But when we come back, we can absolutely invite Alyssa to attend, and I'm sure she would be happy to, from Sourcewell, as to talk a little bit about what it takes to open up a facility.
Yeah.
And I will come back, well, as a group with Alyssa, but also I can put together a much more specific type of situation as a proposal to then potentially be adopted at a future meeting after that.
Okay.
I think we got a pretty good gauge on the direction we think we should go in. We can put that on paper and give a much more better review of a specific example.
Yeah, no, very interesting, and I could see where there's needs out there, but how should we directly meet them? I don't know at this point.
And Madam Chair, that's why we wanted to bring that forward as an initial discussion, just to start thinking, because talking about the ordinance side, and, it was just overwhelming, but I know what the need is on the public, health and human services sector side, and I do think we have to right fit and use common sense when applying, but we also have those regulations that are out there by the state of Minnesota that truly are out of our control. But how can we make a difference locally that we know that you all can make that decision?
Yeah, and especially with the possibility of the ARP funds coming forward.
I think we have a unique opportunity to incentivize maybe people to consider it.
Yeah.
With complementing with the Initiative Foundation, because they're really looking at the education side and looking at larger businesses and considering center care-based facilities as well.
Okay. So my recommendation is to bring it to another work session, and let's keep working on this, absolutely.
Awesome.
Very good.
Thank you.
We'll close the work session.